Hello everybody and welcome back to Creation Myths. In this video, we're going to talk about a supposedly accurate prediction made by Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson, Harvard PhD and resident real fake scientist at Answers in Genesis, someone who should and does absolutely know better, but has zero respect for his intended audience of non-scientifically trained young Earth creationists. Now, you will be shocked to learn that his accurate prediction is, when you look into it, not an accurate prediction. The background that you need to understand this is Jenson's proposed mechanism that explains existing biodiversity in a young Earth framework and a young Earth timeline, his CHNP model. That stands for Created, Heterozygosity, and Natural Processes. The way this is claimed to work is that you have the created kinds front-loaded with a ton of genetic diversity in the form of heterozygosity, having two different alleles for each locus in the genome of diploid species. That diversity is then sorted out into the different lineages as the created kinds radiate and diversify and diverge from each other. Okay, this is what he proposed in his 2017 book, Replacing Darwin. Now, in effect, this mechanism treats speciation as a process that is the result of the loss of genetic diversity, where each species within a kind retains a subset of the original created variation, with the different subsets present in each species responsible for the differences between them. As Jensen wrote in 2018, under the Yeck explanation for speciation in Replacing Darwin, shifts towards homozygosity, which is to say the two copies of an allele being the same, or the two copies of a gene being the same, that's called homozygosity, shifts towards homozygosity are one of the primary mechanisms by which new species are thought to form. Now, I've talked at length about how created heterozygosity fails. I've linked those videos down below, so we're not going to cover that again here. Created heterozygosity doesn't work. I've explained why. We don't need to go back over that. Instead, what I'm talking about here is this so-called prediction that Jensen made and loves to claim has been vindicated. So basically, as part of his CHNP mechanism, he proposes 2.4 speciation events in birds per year. Now, the assumptions underlining this, that we have a complete understanding of all the different species of birds, there's a constant per year rate of speciation, additional assumptions, these are wrong. So this idea is silly on its face, right? It reflects a serious misunderstanding or misrepresentation of evolutionary theory. But that's also not the point here. The point here is that Jensen uses an observed hybridization event among Galapagos and mainland finches documented in the 1980s as confirmation of his speciation mechanism. Here's the problem. That was a hybridization event, which is not the mechanism that Jensen proposes. In fact, genetically, it's the opposite of the CHNP model. According to the CHNP model, speciation occurs as individual lineages lose variation. That's how they diverge from each other. That's actually the mechanism of speciation. As different lineages lose different subsets of the front-loaded variation from the original created kind, they become more homozygous over time. That reduction in variation is actually responsible for the speciation. In a hybridization event, the opposite thing happens. The new hybrid species is more heterozygous, since the resulting population necessarily has alleles from each parent species that are absent in the other. Jensen points out that the hybrid finches subsequently lost genetic diversity due to genetic drift in their small population. That's just what happens with genetic drift. When you have a really small population, you're going to see a decrease in allelic diversity and an increase in homozygosity. So that's exactly what mainstream evolutionary genetics predicts. He then admits that he can't say whether the increase in homozygosity caused the speciation event in question. He quotes this passage from the paper on this population of finches. A gradual increase in homozygosity was then observed over the next 5 generations, as expected from the small number of breeding pairs, 1 to 8, causing genetic drift. He then wrote, in other words, the parental species was relatively heterozygous, and the new species shifted to a state of increased homozygosity, just like replacing Darwin predicted. Granted, this 2018 study never established whether an increase in homozygosity was the cause or the effect of the formation of the incipient species. But in terms of smoking guns, I have a hard time thinking of a better example that fits the expectations of replacing Darwin. Nathaniel, I will help you. The hybridization caused the speciation, which is to say the reproductive isolation. The subsequent loss of variation, the increase in homozygosity, is due to that isolation. If the original hybrids weren't reproductively isolated from the parent species, they wouldn't have had a small population and therefore wouldn't have experienced the strong genetic drift that was observed. The fact that they experienced the strong drift tells you that the reproductive isolation, the speciation, happened before the increase in homozygosity. The homozygosity was a result of the isolation, not the cause of it. And that means the increase in homozygosity didn't cause the speciation, which means this is not a fulfilled prediction of Jeanson's mechanism. Jensen is either unaware of or ignoring the very basic evolutionary dynamics at play here. Either way, he's grasping at straws. He's misapplying basic evolutionary processes to try to shoehorn into his proposed mechanism an event that is the opposite of his proposed mechanism. Jeanson claims this is a confirmed prediction of his model, that this speciation event confirms his proposed rate of speciation and therefore supports his CHNP mechanism. As we just walked through, it's the opposite of that. This is just another example of Jensen doing what he always does, distorting data collected by real scientists to try to fit it into a young Earth-shaped box. That's why he's publishing this stuff in blog posts on the Answers in Genesis website instead of in a real journal. Thank you for watching. Please remember before you leave to hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and consider becoming a channel member. Members get immediate access to my pre-recorded videos. Thank you again for watching, and don't get fooled.